If there's one true thing about my life these days, it is that I feel that I'm living in a constant state of exhaustion and anxiety, edging definitely towards burnout. It was in this context that my husband suggested, oh, let's take a trip to Croatia for our anniversary. Wouldn't that be nice? And immediately, I'm just overcome with panic at the thought of, well, if I take a trip, how will I get done everything I need to get done? How will I do what I need to do? But I agreed to it. We stayed in the seaside town of Zadar, and every day we would walk down the hill to the sea, towards the old town, hugging the coast. And it's really the kind of place where you can get lost. I found myself more and more wanting to get lost, wanting to immerse myself, lose myself in this other place. But could I? Could I let go? See, I am here in Croatia on holiday, as they say, and I wanted to provide some real hard-hitting, in-the-moment reflections on the concept of being on holiday, on vacation, on this concept of taking time out from your normal life to go and live a different life for a week or so. So my life context is that I was born in the US, grew up in the US, spent a long time in the UK, left the UK, had to leave the UK because my student visa expired, came back to the UK as a spouse of a British citizen. And since I have come back after a protracted period of living once again in the US, I've noticed that a main topic of conversation amongst the Brits is this topic of, so do you have any trips planned? Oh, are you going on holiday this year? Do you have any holidays planned? Do you have any holidays coming up? It's like one of the main conversations. Now, I don't know if this is like everyone. I don't know if this is just in like the relatively narrow social group that I occupy, but I've been noticing it a lot. It really seems that everyone is always like going away on just a quick little trip. Just like a quick little, 5 days away, like I happen to be doing right now in Croatia, courtesy of my British husband deciding to book it because he wanted to get away this time of year, apparently. And I wondered, why? Why is everyone always talking about like going on holiday? As an American, this wouldn't occur to me. And I know like there are the naysayers towards Americans, who'd be like, well, you don't have any vacation days to begin with and your work culture is terrible. To that, I would agree. I would say yes, the work culture in the US is terrible. And yes, we don't get nearly enough vacation time. And yes, we should get more vacation time. And yes, our citizens should have more opportunity to dream about the trips they want to take and then actually take them. But still, there's something in this British mentality that has troubled me as well. And now, of course, the British do, generally speaking, have more vacation days, holiday days per year than the Americans have. And for the most part, they do tend to take them, at least in my observations. And I think that's a great thing. However, what I've noticed is that like this idea of going away is always framed as this act of like escaping from your real life. The subtext, though, is that you're getting away because your real life is unbearable and you need to get away. You need that 5 days away so that you can come back and endure another few months of your life. And I just start to think, well, something feels really broken about that. Like if your life is so terrible that you have to get away periodically just to like endure the next several weeks, months before you can take another holiday, I'm like, that's surely not how you want to be living, right? Like I don't want to be living that way. Like I don't want to just go away for a few days and then be like, okay, well, that's my reprieve and now back to the torture culture. I want to enjoy my day-to-day life. I want to like my day-to-day life. And then any traveling I do is just like a cherry on top of a day-to-day life that I already really enjoy. But I feel like that's not how it kind of shapes up in certainly the UK culture that I am currently immersed in. And I feel like it would also be kind of the same in American culture if they even got to take days off, but like they just got to like deal with it, you know, like they just got to be like, okay, well, I hate my life and I never get a reprieve from it. But either way, it's like, this is not right. This is not how it should be. It troubles me. It troubles me deeply. And wait, am I explaining this well? I don't know. But what I've also been noticing in myself as I take like these 5 days away in Croatia is that, first of all, like Croatia's so nice. Like it's so beautiful. Like I love like taking a walk outside here and it's just like, oh wow, like there are olive trees everywhere and like pomegranate trees and lime trees. I love that it's right by the water. I love that you can walk down to the sea and look out over the mountains. Like it's stunning, it's beautiful. And yet me, malcontent, is like, okay, but as I'm here, I'm seeing all this lovely stuff. I'm interacting with what seems to be quite a nice, friendly culture, and yet at the same time, all I can think about is myself. All I can think about is my own ego concern on a continuous loop. Being away for like these few days has in many ways amplified a sort of self-obsession that I notice generally in my day-to-day life as I'm endlessly ruminating on whether I'm happy or whether I could make my life better. I generally have this kind of self-obsession. I know it's not good. I'm trying to get past it. But you would think that going away would maybe reduce some of that self-obsession. What I'm finding, though, is that no, it does not. Because as I'm walking around Croatia, seeing these beautiful sights, interacting with what seems to be a very lovely culture, I am also stuck in this thought loop of, but what am I going back to? Am I satisfied with what I'm going back to? Am I going back to something I can't stand? Am I going to be really unhappy going back to it? Am I just here like for this brief reprieve and then I'm going back to something that I'm really unhappy with? Is that what's happening? Like, oh no, I'm in this different place. But like in a way, I feel like all that I see around me is just reflecting me back to me somehow. It's hard to explain exactly how that is happening, but I think it has something to do with the unfamiliarity of my surroundings, making me think more about how do I fit into these unfamiliar surroundings. I can't engage with and communicate with people in the same way that I would if I were in familiar surroundings, so I end up thinking more about myself, and it's not great. But then what I think, though, is that if I could have more time in this place, if I wasn't just here for 5 nights, if I were here for, say, several months, and I could really immerse myself in the culture and I could really get into the way of being here, maybe I could detach myself from this ego obsession that I have, but as it turns out, I cannot, because I am still bound by this concept of being on holiday and only being on holiday for a few days, and only being on holiday for the few days that like basically I have brokered to be away. The few days that I am allowed to be away before I have to return and resume my normal reality, because that's all I'm allowed to get. And it just feels like a little bit of like a disappointing bargain, does it not? And I do wonder if there's a different way here. Yeah, so it's all got to do with work, doesn't it? On like the British side of things, there is this idea that, okay, well, you're just going away to escape the day-to-day torments of your working life. And on my end, I guess that I took this slightly different approach where it's like, in order to escape the day-to-day torments, I have to work extra hard on my own projects so that I can free myself from the day-to-day torments of employment and hopefully get to do something better and more enjoyable and more authentic. And I don't know if either is the right way, because in some ways, the more I try to free myself from like the shackles of, modern day 9-to-5 employment, the more I find myself being really hard on myself and being unable to take a break and being unable to slow down. And so maybe it's no wonder that when I went away, I could really only think about myself. I think I was on the right track though with this idea of slowing down and enjoying life. And I just don't know quite how to achieve it. But it's a question to ponder, isn't it, for the future, I guess.